Welcome to the Cybersecurity and Cloud Podcast, the podcast where we learn from cybersecurity experts how to stay safe, private, and secure on the cloud and in code. CSCP is hosted by Francesco Cipollone, your cybersecurity friend with a passion for all things cyber and sharing stories of other professionals with you. This episode is sponsored by AppSec Phoenix, the next generation application security platform, enabling organizations to run application security programs in a smart way. Visit www.appsecphoenix.com to learn more.
Do you want me to tell you about WoSec?
Yes, tell me everything about WoSec. We actually, I don't know, we just starting to get a chapter running, I think, either we or WoSec here in London. I need to double check which one of the two.
I know there's Andra and Lauren and Catherine are awesome.
Yeah, I met actually Catherine the other day, and I was trying to spam. I think they have the Christmas dinner on the 11th.
They're an awesome group. I got to meet Andra in person, and she's the only one of them I met in person so far, I believe. And also Sharif, of course, also is very helpful there. He's amazing. Really. Oh God, I wish Sharif were on the call, but I don't see him. Recording because he's been mentioned by both of us.
Yes, I'm gonna spam him a little bit. I'm gonna poke him. But Tanya, tell us everything.
For people that don't know, you two are talking about Sharif Mansour, and yes. I was talking about Sharif Kusa, and both of them are extremely high quality Sharifs.
Well said. Thank you for correcting last names.
I adore both of them.
Remember, of course, Sharif is awesome.
He's great. And he's so...
all you need to know that he's amazing.
Yeah, Mansour, he's on the board for OWASP, and he leads the OWASP chapter in London, England, and he's amazing.
I think Sam is the chapter leader right now.
Oh, okay. I thought they both were.
I think they're co-leads.
All right,
with Andra.
It doesn't matter.
And potentially some others.
Cool.
I think they both are.
All right.
And with Andra too.
Yeah, you can have a bunch of chapter leaders. Like, I know that OWASP only gives benefits to 3 leaders, but OWASP in Ottawa, for instance, like they just brought Nancy on as their 4th leader. I know.
Awesome.
It's such a perfect match. All of them are. Yeah, I miss my Ottawa OWASP peeps. Because I moved to another city because I don't like snow, and they have lots of snow and I have no snow.
You're on the coastline, right? Well, you're on the other coast.
Yeah, I'm on the West Coast now. I moved 5,000 kilometers away. It's pretty far.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other coast.
Francesco, the only guy here. I'm also enjoying here.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tanya. Calling all the way from Africa, Ghana. Been following you on Twitter for some time.
Yeah, we have an international network. We have.
Yes.
Hopefully, we try to reach the whole world as you're doing.
That's right.
Awesome.
So tell us more about WIA and WoSec. No, WoSec, right?
WoSec.
WoSec.
WIA Women in AppSec is part of OWASP, and Zoe's the expert. So she'll do a way better job of telling you about them than I would. WoSec isn't part of a bigger org, and it's a lot more casual than most other organizations. Basically, I went to Israel and I met all these amazing women that are part of Cyber Ladies. We had dinner and it was amazing and it was super fun. And then, I'm still friends with those people. And so in Israel, every adult, unless you have specific religious reasons, has to do military service. Mm-hmm. And the military is broken up into 3 parts, and one of the parts is cyber. I know that when we work in InfoSec, we don't usually say cyber, but anyway. And so almost 1/3 of all adults know information security, which is amazing, and women as well. So they have tons and tons of highly technical, like extremely, extremely skilled women in information security. So they have these events and like 200 women show up, and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, like, no, it's off the charts awesome. And so they're like, yeah, like we have like this community. And so like we just have tons of women. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I would love to have that. And so I came back to Ottawa, and my friend Donna, she's really cool. And I was like, I wish we could have that. And we brainstormed. And so we decided we would hold a brunch and bitch, which is like a stitch and bitch.
Brunch and bitch.
Food. Yeah. Because we would just end up like venting and stuff. And so we decided to make a meetup, and we're like, okay, so we'll have a brunch once per month. And if, no one else shows up, then at least I just get to have, brunch with my cool friend Donna. And I'm like, probably Nancy will come, right? So the first week, 22 women showed up.
Jeez.
Yeah. And Ottawa is not that big. It's not like London where you live, or New York where Zoe lives. It's like very small comparatively speaking. And then every month,
people don't get out.
Like a crap ton of women showed up, and
were
more
there
women
enough chairs at the table at brunch for that? Wow.
Yeah, we had. So they started, actually, the restaurant started giving us our own room because we're so loud, and we're like giggling and laughing and squealing. Yeah, and it was just great. And then I was like, oh, like, do you want to like have like a little workshop that's women only? And I'll give like, the cloud security workshop. And then we did that. And we had like a CTF that Chloe ran recently. And so then this woman from Vancouver named Duha, she said, hey, I see you tweeting about what you're doing, and it's awesome. I want to do the thing that you're doing. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I helped her set up one. And then this woman from Nairobi in Kenya wrote me, her name's Judy. And she's like, hey, that looks so cool. Can I do one too? I'm like, yeah. So I helped her set one up. And then these women from Montreal were like, hey, we want to do one. And I was like, cool. And Chloe from San Francisco, like, she just blew the lid off everything. She's like, let's open them everywhere. And
love Chloe.
Yeah, and so now I think we're a year and a half old, and we have 30 chapters.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Really fast.
And so we do three things. So we brunch and bitch. We have like little women only learning circles. And so a thing that I was doing in Ottawa, which it turns out scales really well everywhere, is when I would go to a meetup, like let's say like the first time I went to the Python meetup, there's 80 men, and it's on private property. And they were drinking, and I thought to myself, like, this isn't safe. This is really stupid, Tanya. You shouldn't be
Talk
here.
about security.
Yeah, it felt like bad physical security planning on my part, right?
Yeah.
So the first time I went to capture the flag that was not mine, like that I didn't run, what I did is I just went on LinkedIn and invited every woman I know. And so 11 of us showed up. And then it's funny, we made the news. They're like, what are all these women doing here? This is awesome. And I wore really cute outfits, and we did dances when we got flags. But anyway, we just decided we're different.
That's actually really amazing, because it's how we break down a male only thing that is really unsafe because male packs up together and we do like guy stuff, and it's like, how do we balance the gender? And if there are women in the room, it's like, we behave.
Yes.
But I think it's really important, because it's the way to make it a little bit safer.
Yeah. So we started crashing meetups together, and then we started crashing conferences. So we wrote RSA and told them how we crashed meetups, and we said, can we crash RSA? And they gave a bunch of people free passes, and they gave us a room and printed signs. Wow. And then we crashed Microsoft Build. We crashed all sorts of B-sides. And so what we'll do is we'll have, like, we crashed AppSec Day in Melbourne, and basically they give us a space that's for women only, that's at the beginning of the conference or before, like the night before. And then just all the women, like every woman in the city is invited, but also like women that are attending the conference. And the idea is that we all meet each other and we have fun. And then you have someone that's like your buddy for the rest of the conference. So you know we're there. And WoSec has a code of conduct. So when we crash an event, we have to follow our code of conduct as well as the event's code of conduct. So whoever is the leader, you can come to us and then we will try to help you solve your problem, like with the organizers of the event. So if a man is harassing someone, if you don't feel comfortable going to the organizers of the conference, you can come to me and then I will go to them with you. So you're not
Do you
alone.
see that happening, or do you see a lot of happening or less happening?
So far, I've only had it happen like in my city where like there was a meetup where some not awesome stuff happened. And so then we crashed the meetup as a group. And then that person was on very, very, very good behavior. And then I spoke to the meetup organizers about how they could make it more lady friendly, and they were all ears. So then they asked if like over time I can kind of help them make it more female friendly. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And so that's good. And then a bunch of us went to like not a meetup, but like we just all went and karaoke, like lots of the WoSec women. And then
that's always fun.
Yeah, and then there was like a man sexually harassing some of the women. So I was like, hey, can I switch seats with you so that I can make his life hell? If he because he was like touching her. He was like way out of line. Yeah. So I ended up getting him thrown out of the bar because he is being inappropriate. And so if you're a WoSec leader, like you kind of have to take this protective stance. Like it's part of the deal. Like being a community leader means you have like you're responsible for protecting the people in your community. And when I was at Microsoft, there's this amazing, amazing woman named Allison Krug. I love you, Allison. And she's amazing. And so her profession is like running communities and blossoming communities. And she sat me down and she's like, you're starting this thing called WoSec, and it is your responsibility to protect the members of your community. And if you're not doing that, then you are failing as a community leader. And so there's been things where people have acted inappropriately, and then I've had to talk to them, and we've had to remove 2 people from WoSec because they were acting in a way that was against our code of conduct. But because we did that, we're so much stronger. Like those people who were being mistreated know, how much value they have. And
they're in a protected environment.
You can't act like that. And so every leader in WoSec, like even if you're not part of WoSec, if you're at an event and you see a WoSec leader and you're having trouble, ask her for help and she will help you.
That's nice. But how do you keep balance between all this amazing activity that you do in your professional life and your daily life? Because what I find is like my personal life is suffering so much.
Oh yeah.
How do you keep a healthy balance?
Oh my God.
So that's part of why I left Microsoft and decided to start my own company and now be an independent consultant, was because I found I'm really bad at saying no. And Microsoft is filled with like amazing humans who are like, every person there is like a wild overachiever. Like all of them are like the cream of the crop, right? And
the swamp here.
I know, and I'm really competitive. So I'm like, I have to be the best of the best. And so I push myself way too hard.
To the limit.
Yeah. And even like and it was like a lot my fault, because that's how I am, right? And so they were wonderful, but I'm not good at saying no. I'm not good at slowing down. So part of like leaving was that I'm like, okay, so like I can't be in a place that just enables that so much. Like they're like, you want more
alienate you.
Yeah, you want another plane ticket? No problem, Tanya. I'm like, okay. So like
initiative.
Yeah, so if you're running a startup, like a startup is poor, so they don't have money to send you to everything. So then you're naturally limited. I've also started like making sure that I have like certain breaks in the day and other things where I found like I would overwhelm myself with Microsoft because there were so many teams and so many things internal to Microsoft that I would do.
Interesting.
And I also started like saying no sometimes to community people. So that's part of why I started Mentoring Monday, was because I still wanted to help people, but I couldn't personally help every one of them. So instead I'm like, I'll pair you off with another member of the community and you can help each other. And so
you come in the podcast and you just share the knowledge and share this thing. That's why I started this one. I run the same struggle. I'm mentoring 4 people I reach my limited capacity because it's like I don't have a life.
Yes,
anymore.
yes, exactly. Yeah. I also have a sweetheart in my life right now who is like a psychologist or like, doing the PhD for all those things. And so I get a lot of, sweetheart, it's 10 p.m. Do you really feel you should still be working? And I'm like, well, and then like the look of, I'm like, oh, you're right. I'll close my laptop now. Thank you. Good point. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Understood.
You should start saying post-it note of stop working after 10. That's a passive-aggressive declaration.
Well, it's like, but sometimes the work that I'm doing doesn't feel like work. Like I'm like, oh, I'm just like helping like this woman I know from like this place with that. And it's like,
yeah, it's deep.
But maybe you should help them tomorrow. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Good point.
Yeah,
but that's the kind of doom of loving what you do is it never feels like work, and you can always say I'm going to do a little bit more and a little bit more, and it's 1 a.m. and it's like damn.
yes, exactly.
No, I've been there.
This episode is brought to you by the generosity of AppSec Phoenix Ltd. AppSec helps startups and enterprises solve complex software security problems by using smart data aggregation and complex machine learning software. Discover how AppSec Phoenix helps CISO and developers remove friction and maximize the use of DevSecOps professionals at www.appsecphoenix.com. AppSec Phoenix is the new and smart dev-first way to manage your software vulnerability. Follow the tag #AppSecSmart.
So going back to, I want to ask two key questions. That is, well, first of all, how do you seeing that we're getting better at AppSec this year, or we're getting more attention, or we're getting better or worse, or do you see us blooming and flourishing, or do you see AppSec just being a fad or just a spark of let's focus on AppSec and maybe tomorrow something else?
I think I have a very biased view because I do consulting. And so a lot of the people that I talk to right now are people who take it seriously, like people that are like, okay, so we have an AppSec program. This is where we are. We want to be more mature. What are our next steps to become even more mature? And like, can you draw out like a 3-year plan for us? Like with realistic goals that we can reach so that we can be like A+. Like if we're like a C- now, how can we, do you know what I mean? And like those people are clearly taking it very seriously. Yeah. So I don't usually get much consulting with places that are like dumpster fires, because they aren't calling. Does that make sense? Because they've decided it's not serious. But I get questions from people where they're like, we're doing nothing. Where do we start? I do think that it's getting more attention. I think it's getting more money. I was part of, working at the startup. I had to research the market. So the market value of application security between now and 2023 is $10 billion. That's the estimated market value.
But that's still a drop in the ocean of all the apps, all the
year.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's, to me, like, it seems huge to me. Like the asset management is only like 1.2 billion. So that's a lot bigger. And don't we need to know where our stuff is?
Yeah.
Right. But it's because application inventory, like having an inventory is like a simpler task than
it's step number one of everything.
Pardon?
Is knowing it's like step number one of any program of work. It's like, where are we, or what stuff are we running? And
what are we protecting?
People stumbling on that. It's like, we don't know what we have in our house.
Yes. But like because I have this very biased view, it's hard for me to be able to say if we're getting significantly better. However, IT is changing. Like we have Kubernetes, we have containers, we have serverless, we have logic apps, we have like all of these cool new things that are coming that developers are running off and doing, whether we like it or not. And I'm seeing a lot of AppSec teams that aren't changing. Like there's like a lot of AppSec teams are still trying to handle cross-site scripting. And meanwhile, the developers are like, yeah, we're using Kubernetes. And the AppSec team's like, wait, what now? And it's like, oh, and we made like 50 microservices last week. By the way, and that like there's no good. So, okay, so I know a bunch of vendors are going to get upset when I say this, but I have not seen an API dynamic scanning tool that doesn't suck. Like they're like,
no, but we're getting better. It's like, it's new stuff. It's stuff that popped up last year or 2 years ago because it's a problem that is growing, and we still have few vendors on the space. And I think, I mean, I can't disclose too much, but the work where I operate in, we don't have a lot of web app. I mean, I work in financial and I consult in financial on AppSec, and we don't have a lot of new stuff, and a lot of these vendors are focusing on new stuff. So a whole sector that is kind of relevant is left over. I mean, we're running with a problem that is like, okay, how do you run a Dust on a mainframe against a mainframe?
Yes, there's still a lot of mainframes, definitely. And I know a lot of, oh my gosh, we could have a whole conversation about that. So I'm going to try really hard to zip it because
That's the problem. Is like, this is going to go over and over and over. We're never going to stop.
That in itself, huge topic.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try not to just put the lid back on that can.
Mainframe.
I think though that like one thing that I wish would change is that some of the community events, like especially OWASP as an organization, would be less hostile towards vendors. I feel like, so like when I was a vendor for like as part of Security Sidekick, like the community was just wonderful and open with me because, we're two people and we're a startup and all of that. But I find that they're really, really hostile with vendors, and like vendors are going to help us.
It depends. So with the CSA, I'm facing the same challenge, and I'm trying to actually bring in and do like free training and like inviting Microsoft to do like the basic stuff that you need to do to secure your cloud. And next year we're going to do that on Google and on AWS and Microsoft as well. It's like a day full of training and serverless. It's like completely free as a community. And I'm not biased, but I'm going to say these are the vendor in the space.
Yeah.
You judge.
Matter of factly, yeah.
I find it really frustrating and confusing how much hostility there is between OWASP and vendors. And quite frankly, like as an AppSec professional, I would love to go see a 1 hour talk that is not a pitch, but like, this is how XYZ product works. This is what it does. This is what it looks like, because I'm asked constantly to advise, should we buy this or that? And
but like, that's what we need to do, that talk, inviting people. So we need to provide that frame and that mental space where we invite vendors and say it shouldn't be a pitch, but it should be crafted in this way. So if you show that your product is awesome, everybody's going to buy it. Yeah. It's like, you don't need to pitch. And we framed the CSA, the chapter, with some of this stuff, and we invite a vendor that did, this is our amazing product. This is the problem that we solve. Period. That was the pitch. It's like not buy, but this is all the awesome stuff that we do.
Yeah, I would love it too. Like a thing I would really love is half day or full day trainings on specific products that are free, because like I want to know how to use this product. If I'm going to consider buying it, I'd love to be able to try it and play around with it. And like when I was working at Microsoft, I would do cloud security workshops and I would let everyone play with Azure. And I remember like some conferences, OWASP wouldn't let me do it, but all the other conferences were like, yeah. And it would be like standing room only, because people are like, yeah, my office is moving to Azure and I want to know how to use it. And I don't want to pay a small fortune for training. So I'll do Tanya's like 3-hour little workshop. and we'll play with it for free.
CSA.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we were born. It's like to address that specific thing. And you can't fight back a community ask.
I think they're starting to change, because I think at AppSec Cali 2019, there was a training on AWS security specifically. I think Will Bengston. But
Will is still Netflix, so is not vendor focused. We want more vendor. So we did run
as far as training content. I think it's more. They fear pitches, but again, it shouldn't matter whether you work for the company or whether you just use it as your company. OWASP members should be able to train on a platform that realistically people are going to be using.
Yeah,
and shout out to Will. Shout out to Will, amazing work that he did on IAM. I love Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I'm looking.
They're all gonna be at AppSec Cali anyway.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I love OWASP. I do.
We all love OWASP.
Yeah,
exactly.
Actually, one thing that I was discussing in last call with Jim and Grant, it's like we need to do more advertisement of the project, the amazing project that we have, because I know a lot of people that know, I know top 10, but do you know about Zap? Do you know about what it does?
Yeah.
Do you know about Juice Shop? Do you know about the maturity matrix? There is tons of stuff that I didn't know before. I say, I have a problem. Let's see if there is OWASP and the problem name, and if somebody has tried to solve it.
They do book a lot of talks at the global AppSec conferences. Like when I went to the one in Europe, not this year, but the year before and the year before that, like I saw talks on Defect Dojo, the core rule set. Some of the OWASP projects are just so ridiculously impressive. I'm like, I can't believe it's free. Like, why is everyone not using this stuff?
ASVS or dependency checkers.
We all essentially mentioned it within this talk that, we're a bunch of really, really committed volunteers, and that includes project contribution. So getting the brightest minds with the right, community-driven incentives and, personality and attitude is how that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So congratulations to all of us.
Yay!
Yes!
Yes, about time for the cheers. We owe it to ourselves, especially before the new year. Happy holidays, everybody.
So let me ask you another thing. What the heck is DevSecOps?
Ask it with 1 minute to spare. That is, OWASP has a no bullying policy, and then that's just being a tease, Francesco.
We can run over a little bit. We can run over and we can ask some questions.
Well, at this point, we better.
I believe that DevSecOps...
You do like drama, Francesco.
I love drama. I'm a drama queen. Who knows me knows that I'm a drama queen. I like to drop the thing. It's like, go, explode, have a life of your own.
What's DevSecOps? Fight.
No, there is a frame to it. It's like
with the Mortal Kombat theme song in the background.
I'm gonna so much to it. It's like we had like probably 4 or 5 conversations about what the heck is DevSecOps. This stuff. I'm gonna put the screen team and the soundtrack and then fight. And everybody opinions about DevSecOps. Over Christmas, I'm definitely gonna do that.
Fatality. Drama wins.
I'm so much doing it.
Okay, here's my answer. So I learned what DevSecOps was from my friend Imran Mohammed. He's like, Tanya, DevSecOps is the same thing that you and I have always done. It's AppSec, but just at a place that's doing DevOps. It's what we do as AppSec professionals when we work in a DevOps environment. That's all. Don't make it more complex than it needs to be. And I was just like, it's like the big light bulb went off and I was sold. And
it's like doing things right, and that's it.
Yeah, and a lot of software developers will say to me, oh no, DevOps includes security. And my stance is that the moment all of them always create secure apps, I promise I'll stop saying DevSecOps. But until then, I feel security needs some attention, unfortunately. Like we need to be like a bit more like, look at me, because it's clearly not being addressed.
It's not the focus. No, yeah. I think you're spot on. It's like doing things right, but at this point in time, I think the message of DevOps was misinterpreted. It's like not going fast means necessarily delivering good quality of code. So I said, I don't want to call it DevSecOps or DevSecOps or whatever form. I mean, my form right now is so long, but it's like DevSec, Bs, Gov, Risk, SecOps. It's like involve everybody. But aside from that, it's like just do code at the speed and pace that allow you to do good quality code. And even if you break it, it's like even if you promote and secure code, you have a fast way to actually fix it. As long as you build that routine checks, it's like you're good.
Yeah.
You define the speed, but not just going crazy fast means that you DevOps. And that's the argument I keep on having.
Yes.
Like slow down and do a pace that actually makes you do good code and have that argument. It's like, I haven't met one single developer that want to do shitty code. It's like they all want to have, I mean, they're all proud and pride, but they just push to actually do fast. And that's, I think, the more poisonous message of DevOps. Going fast for the sake of going fast, I think it's wrong.
Yeah, I think some of that is management too. I feel for software developers because they get pressed from all sides. Like they're pressed from security, they're pressed from the project manager, they're pressed from their customers, they're pressed, like, and they're just like, help, I just want to write code. So
stop copy and paste code. It's like, but they don't want to. I just want to create good code, and I wanna be in a framework. But maybe it's just an environment that try to push for transformation for the sake of transformation. So I see the need of actually breaking big silos and big organizations. Say, let's just do 10 release per day in an organization that maybe does one release every 6 months. And it's like, it's crazy. We can't do it. And then you realize that it's just a matter of creating an objective and a problem. And it's like, go and try to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And security then come after and say, you might have forgotten a big piece of things. And hence DevSecOps. Pay attention to us.
I got the firewall, I'm secure. I got the WAF, it does also bing bong when there is an error.
Yes, DevSecOps is not tooling. DevSecOps is a culture of promoting good code. But you need to be mindful also of your environment and what mitigating control.
But I do have blockchain and AI, so the vendor told me.
No, don't start a new drama.
Drama.
Oh my God, I love
Buzz.
Yes. Oh my God.
I'm going to start doing the password bingo on these calls.
Oh my God.
I mean,
we're going to have like 10 minutes of buzzwords and then we got them out.
There is a famous next-gen antivirus, which I'm not going to mention, but, they have crowds and falcons. And I was able to bypass their sophisticated AI 5 times just by downloading 5 variants of the same piece of malware.
We're not gonna start a vendor war.
Wait.
But they said, because you didn't buy the add-on to actually stop the malware, so we can just tell you after the fact that you've been infected.
The vendors are not bad. The vendors just develop code and at the speed of the client's need. Let's put it that way. Let's keep it vendor neutral. Let's not bash the vendor.
Of course, they all suck. That's a known thing.
It's like the always argument that I have with everybody is the tool that you buy are just as good as the way you use. If you use a hammer as a screwdriver, of course it's going to be wrong. It's just going to be a screwdriver and it's as good as you use a screwdriver. If you screw in the wrong place, you're screwed. Sorry for the pun.
Oh God, that was not by accident because that was brilliant.
I actually just came up with it, so I'm going to brand it. That's
Write it down. Jot it down. Remember it. Reuse it.
I will reuse it. No, but I think it's the tools are
apply the dry method to that.
Yeah, I think that's a fundamental thing about DevSecOps is just coming up with solution in a sensible way. because no one solution will fit all, and no one solution will fit organization. I love the big consultancies that go and say, okay, this is DevSecOps for your organization. It just, but it doesn't fit me. You haven't actually spent time to understand how can I insert security with DevOps in my organization. It's like, it needs to be homegrown. We can advise, but it needs to be homegrown.
Yeah.
But then you would be lucky, because when they try to understand what you need, they charge for it.
That's why it needs to be homegrown. That's why myself, Tanya, probably, we just work with the organization, understand the organization, and Zoe as well. We get embedded inside it and try to solve the problem from inside, instead of just, this is a framework, just fly with it and just impose it to all the developers and see if it falls.
It's amazing to see how DevSecOps is doing in our organizations, especially when you see people fighting against it, but you see the word sec itself forcing itself to enter right in the middle. Look at the spelling of DevSecOps. It's right in the middle of everything that is happening, and it's forcing its way through. You see, I'm just wondering why it's not DevOpsec and not sec devs. But
I like that.
Right in the middle of everything, holding the two hands and putting them together. I wish they could just understand that we are serving as a bridge for them. Just hold our hands and then we create something really meaningful. It's amazing. It's amazing the way it works.
It's a transformation. It's a business transformation that's going to happen over time, and we're going to get better and better at it while the world changes around us. It's inevitable. Change is inevitable, as that. It's the two things that are inevitable. All right, I'm conscious of time. I could spend over and over and over. I'll run over. Can I ask Tanya to leave us with a very positive note on security?
Yes. I think that our industry is going to grow really, really fast. I think that we clearly have tons and tons of people who want to get into our industry, because you can see the Mentoring Monday thing every Monday, lots of people reaching out every single Monday. And if we can encourage them, I think that our industry will do so much better, and we will have way more wins, because we will have more people. And if we build each other up, which it looks like most of the people in our community want to do, like, our industry is just going to move forward in this really great and powerful way. And I'm wicked excited for 2020.
Yes.
Great.
Get more people into SEC. You're the example of a developer that convert and say, let's do SEC. It's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And the more all of us invite people in, like, make content, talk to people, all of those things are things that will bring us more awesome people, like attract people to our industry. Because we need to be attractive so that we can get the best and brightest.
I absolutely agree. It's like we need to make security simple, demystify a lot of stuff, stop with the buzzwords, stop bringing people in. It's simple. It's just doing things right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think that. Thank you so much for coming on and helping on the podcast. And you're amazing as always.
Oh, you're amazing too. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone that joined us. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Having a great day. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast today. It really meant a lot for me having Tanya on the podcast. She's such a sweetheart. She's such a warm heart person. This was the ending of the series of application security, but in 2020 we're gonna have more of this, because the feedback that I've received for this podcast has been absolutely massive and people have enjoyed. So please let me know more about what you want to see in the podcast, and I really hope that this was useful for you. Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcast and post on social media tagging Cybersecurity Cloud Podcast for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Discover other episodes at www.cybersecuritypodcast.com.